Hey everybody, it's John Halpin. I'm here with Josh Katzowitz. Welcome to the Friday edition of Pickwatch Live for the Divisional Round of the NFL playoffs. Josh, we're going to talk about underdogs today because everybody loves the underdogs. Are you surprised at the extent that it seems like people like them? Because on the fan side, the underdogs are the most popular. On the expert side so far, only the Saints are leaning toward a favorite. The other ones, the underdogs, are pretty popular.
It's not surprising because I think what we've seen in the last month or so is that, the best teams in the league have a lot of vulnerabilities. And the underdogs are the teams that are kind of getting hot. And I talk a lot about how I feel like it's so important how you go into the playoffs, whether or not you're peaking, whether or not you're playing your best of the season. And I think a lot of the underdogs were, and that included teams like, like the Ravens, who didn't end up making it to this round. And the teams that were not peaking are the teams like the Saints and the Rams, the Patriots. These teams are not playing as well, even though even the Chiefs, to some degree. The best teams in the league are not playing the best right now. So no, it's not surprising to me. And I always go back to I think it's the 2011 Giants who were, I think it was 2011 Giants, 9-7, barely made the playoffs, and then won the Super Bowl because they were playing the best at that point of the season. So to me, that's a really important facet.
Okay, so before we get on to the game-by-game analysis, let's take that analogy you just made, the 2011 Giants, a team that's a wild card team that peaked at the right time and is rolling through. If you had to pick one of those wild cards that could be, who is it?
I guess you could say the Cowboys. I don't think. Well, you know what? The Cowboys or the Eagles. I don't think I never felt like the Cowboys were a good team this year, and I can't remember how I felt about the Giants in 2011, but probably felt the same way about the Giants. They're just an okay team, and they got kind of lucky to be in the playoffs. And the Cowboys were a little bit the same way, where halfway through the season we were looking at the Cowboys and like, man, this offense is terrible, and Jason Garrett better start looking for a new job.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they caught fire. I don't think the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl, but I don't think many people thought the Giants were going to win the Super Bowl in 2011. So I guess there's some similarities there.
Okay. I was actually, if I had to pick one of these teams, it might be the Colts. I just think they're picking up steam. I mean, they've been picking up steam all season, but they're sort of they look now like they really belong. They don't look like a 6 seed,
Right. Do you remember from 2011 whether the Giants ever looked like they actually belonged in the playoffs? I don't remember that.
No. Here's what happened in 2011. When they got there and they won their first game, it had happened 4 years before.
Right.
And I remember, I grew up a Giants fan, so this is kind of, I remember a lot of this. Although I don't remember who they beat in the wild card game. And they got there and they won the first game, and I went, oh, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
And, and then they went to play Green Bay, and Green Bay was probably at least a 7-point favorite, and they had a huge year. And I remember going, nah, I think they're going to win. That year, it was only because they had been through it 4 years earlier in a similar fashion. In 2007, they were 9-7, and the week before the end of the season, it didn't look like they had any business being in the playoffs. They looked terrible.
Yeah.
And things just kind of turned for some whatever weird reason. I still don't understand why they did, but they did. Right. But and they had a great defensive line. And otherwise, you looked and went, there's nothing special about these guys.
Yeah. So sometimes teams get hot. Sometimes quarterbacks get hot. Joe Flacco is a prime example who made himself $100 million by playing 4 really good games. So it's the playoffs get kind of weird. And I think getting back to the original question about wild cards, it's like you could look at a guy like Andrew Luck, who's been good all season, but seems to be playing extra special now. And you're like, and Andrew Luck is certainly more of an elite quarterback than Joe Flacco ever was. That's not really even a question, but I'll take sometimes just a hot quarterback at the right time,
Yep, absolutely.
And I'm not sure Dak Prescott. Can you imagine Dak Prescott all of a sudden? He played pretty well last week, but all of a sudden Dak Prescott gets hot, and it'd be like the surprise of the century.
It's funny for me. That's within the list of possible outcomes here, because I'm looking, I'm going, I think Dak's got it in him to step up here to show us that maybe Now he's better than we thought, but I think I like him a little more than most people. You know, I think he's pretty good, and I think the Amari, you know, I mean, yeah, he got Amari. I don't know if we talked about this last week. Yeah, he got Amari Cooper. He finally got a good receiver, but well, not finally. He had Dez, so I shouldn't say that. But now you go, oh yeah, well, it's okay that he has a good receiver. A lot of good quarterbacks have that, and I just think I think he's better than people want to give him credit for. He's not just a creation of, you know, a great offensive line, which is what he looked like 2 years ago. We just stood there and, you know, as long as he wanted. I actually think he can be a pretty solid quarterback. So if he stepped up and had a big playoff, I would not be shocked.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get to the games. Before we do that, remember, he's on Twitter at Josh Katzowitz. I'm at jhalpin37. The main account here is at Pickwatch. Go to NFL.pickwatch.com. Make your picks, track the expert picks. Right now, I'm looking at the expert picks. They're trickling in. You'll see more of them today, but they're trickling in right now. So just keep checking that out. Make yours whenever you get a chance. You can sort lots of different ways. Just say, hey, who's been the best person picking the Eagles all year? You can do that. There's a lot of ways to sort the data that Sean and the team have built all year, so you should definitely check it out. Also, if you listen to audio podcasts, we always say this is on Facebook and YouTube, and please subscribe to both. The individual game discussions here will be on YouTube later today. Also, if you're on Spotify, you can check out you can listen to the audio version of this. So just, you know, listen to it in the car on the way to work, or you know, on your headphones or whatever, if you're on a train somewhere or a bus or whatever. All right, let's go. Colts Chiefs. Chiefs by 5.5. Over under 57. We might have some snow, Josh. At game time, I'm reading the weather report right. 32, 33 degrees, 30% chance of snow. Love it. I want some snow on a late Saturday afternoon in Kansas City. I can't wait. Did you think 6 weeks ago, did you have imagined the Chiefs only being favored by 5.5 at home against the Colts in a playoff game?
No, I guess not. You know, no. If you look at, especially if you look at the way they've beaten their opponents this year, and for the most part, I'm looking through the schedule right now, and all these games they've won by pretty healthy margins. Earlier in the season, anyway. Later in the season, they haven't played quite as well, and those games have gotten closer, and they've lost a couple. So, but no, I mean, the Chiefs have looked so dominant on offense this year, and you know, everybody knows their defense isn't very good, but it seems like the Chiefs are a team they're going to win every game by about 10 points or so. So yeah, that's a little surprising.
Yeah. We'll get to the injuries right now, real quick. The Colts, the biggest concern for the Colts. All right, one of their safeties, Mike Mitchell, is on IR. That's not a huge loss. Malik Hooker, their young safety, has been in a walking boot with a foot injury all week. He hasn't practiced. He says he'll play. Listed as questionable. We're not sure yet. One of their linemen, Tyquan Lewis, is doubtful with a knee injury. That's not good. T.Y. Hilton hasn't practiced all week, but he hasn't been practicing for a few weeks, I think, and they're expecting him to play. On the Chiefs side, they're hoping to get Spencer Ware and Sammy Watkins back. Ware probably sounds better than Watkins. Again, they're questionable, so we don't know. They're both limited in practice this week. Eric Berry not going to play again. So we talked about the schedules. The Chiefs started out like gangbusters, and now they've lost 3 of their last 6. They lost that game in LA to the Rams, the Monday night shootout. They lost to the Chargers at home a few weeks ago, and then they lost at Seattle. No embarrassing losses there. At home, okay, they beat the Raiders on the road by a touchdown. At home, they beat the Ravens by 3 in overtime in a game where they were down by 7 until a fourth quarter conversion very, very late. They strolled over the Raiders in week 17. The Chiefs, do you think, if you look at this late schedule, you look at how they've played, are they slipping? I mean, we know they can't stop anybody, but are they was it due to happen, or is it something that you think is sort of a decline happening?
I think to some degree it was due to happen, but then, you know, you look at their schedule earlier in the year, and, you know, like you kind of noted this, but it should be noted those 3 of the last 6 wins, three wins in the last 6 games, 2 of those wins were against the Raiders. So that barely even counts. So, but you look at the early season wins, and they beat the Chargers in week 1, they beat the Steelers in week 2. Both of those were good wins. Everything else is like kind of meh. I mean, they won big, but they didn't really play anybody. They played the Broncos a couple times they just fired the coach. So how can you know, the Broncos were okay at times, but they ended up firing the coach. You know, they beat the Browns, which in retrospect seems like a pretty good win. But other than that, I mean, these wins are, and not that it's their fault because that's what the schedule was, but the only really good team well, I mean, like I said, they beat Steelers and Chargers, who are both good teams, and then they lose to Patriots in Week 6. So most of the times they play good teams, they lose, which you never really thought about until recently.
Right.
So I guess there's still questions about whether or not the Chiefs are at that elite level. I mean, we think they are because of the record and because of how good that offense is, but most of the time when they play a really good team, they're not winning those games. So
Right.
something to think about. Now, whether the Colts are on that level or on the level of, a Rams, or even a Chargers, that's a different question. But I mean, that is the question. But I think there are real questions still about if the Chiefs can get to that tippy top level, I guess.
Okay. The Colts, on the other. By the way, the Chiefs. Couple things about Chiefs. A few stats here. They're 7-1 at home, but only 4-4 against the spread. In those 6 games that they played, that they've lost 3, they've allowed more than 30 points a game, and that's including only giving up 3 against the Raiders. Like we said, they can't stop anybody. In their last 7 games, they're 1-5-1 against the spread. They are 30. I can go through a lot of stats and say how bad they are on defense. 31st in the league in runs per yards per rush allowed. I mean, there's just a bunch of bad things. Their defense is just no good. Other hand of this game, the Colts, they won 11 out of 12, counting the wild card game here. In the 9 games since the bye, they've allowed 15.3 points per game. At the beginning of the year, this team was looked at as kind of a bottom feeder.
Yeah.
And the draft that they had has just been, it was just stellar. It was really, really good. I mean, they made that trade with the Jets for Darnold, and they traded down, and they got Quentin Nelson. They drafted another guard in the 2nd round. They drafted Darius Leonard, who's an all-pro. I mean, they drafted 2 all-pros in the first 35 picks. Fantastic job. I mean, Chris Ballard, executive of the year, well-deserved. I mean, they came quick, these guys. The Colts, 6-3 against the spread on the road, 5-4 straight up. They're good against the run. 3.9 yards per carry allowed, 6th in the league. These guys they're good on both sides of the ball here. I mean, the only thing you worry about maybe is Hilton's injury, but he's been playing through it and playing fine. They can score. They can run and throw. Their offensive line has been getting better all the time. The defense has been getting better all the time. I said earlier, this might be the wild card team pick to roll through. They have gotten really, really good. Like next year, I go into the season next year, I'm going, they're probably the best team in the AFC.
And then we're not even talking about Andrew Luck and about how good he's been this year, and about how he's come back so hard and so strong. Mm-hmm. I wonder how much Kareem Hunt not being in the lineup for the Chiefs has mattered. Because
I wonder that too.
Their running game without him, I mean, it just simply isn't as dynamic. I mean, Damian Williams has been good. He's been fine. Spencer Ware's been kind of okay. But I wrote about this a few weeks ago in Pickwatch about, obviously the Chiefs had no choice. They had to get rid of him. So that wasn't the choice. But the choice was, or I guess the question was, how are they going to be without him? And that, they haven't proven yet that they're like a top winning team without him. One thing I did want to mention about the Colts, though, not that it means a whole lot, but the Colts have won 5 of the past 6 games they've played in Kansas City. That dates back to 1996, so obviously a bunch of different teams there. But as a franchise, and I think most of those games were in December, November, December, so late in the season, so kind of cold like we were talking about before. Just something to think about. Also, what do you think about in this? So as much as we talked about Patrick Mahomes, this is his first playoff game as a starter. You kind of wonder how he's going to be. I think he's going to be fine because he's proven all year long like he's not a regular. I know he's not a rookie quarterback, but he's basically a rookie quarterback. He's right. Not a regular kind of rookie quarterback where he doesn't really have bad games. So I think he'll be fine. But and it's good that he's going to be at home to start his playoff career. But again, something to think about with that. Playoffs are a little bit different beast.
Yeah, and one thing about him, much as easy to love the guy, he's no stranger to turning the ball over. Right. Like he takes risks, and I think that's a good thing overall. But turnovers are turnovers, and it only takes one to turn a game a little bit. This is I think the way these teams are playing, like I'm one of those people. I think resting guys in week 17 is fine. I think momentum can be overrated, especially with the team getting a week off. And because of the way the Chiefs played late, that's not alone what turns me off to them. I'm not turned off. I think I said to Ryan the other day, if I'm getting 5.5 points, and I really think the underdog can win this game, that has like a pretty good shot to win it, I'm going to go that way. I think for me, that's, I almost think, I don't know about toss-up, and I don't want to downplay the Chiefs. I still think, as bad as their defense is, I think they have a shot to win the Super Bowl. I mean, it's kind of seems ridiculous, but, I think they could because their offense is so strong. And if Watkins comes back, that's a big deal. It's a bigger deal that people want to make it out to be, even though stats weren't that big. I think I got to go Colts here because I think they can win outright.
So are you picking them straight up too?
I am not picking them straight up.
Do you think they could? Yeah. I'm going with the Chiefs straight up and Chiefs against the spread. For as much as people talk about Andy Reid and his failures in the playoffs, he's still really good. He's still really good coach, and he's still really good against when he gets 2 weeks to prepare for an opponent. And that's kind of been talked about. And that's a fun topic every time the Chiefs have the bye week during the season and how good Andy Reid is coming off the bye.
Yep.
I think he's 17-3 now lifetime after he won this year. But he's also really good in the playoffs coming off a bye. He's 4-1. His teams are 4-1 coming off when they skip wildcard weekend. So, it's kind of I don't want to say it's a meaningless stat, but I think you could look at it that way, but to me, there's a trend there, and that Andy Reid's a good coach and he's a good preparer of his team, which I think goes a long way. So you have 2 weeks to prepare for Indianapolis. Indianapolis played. It wasn't a tough game last week, but they had to play and they had to go on the road. I don't know. I think the Chiefs have a lot of vulnerabilities and they have a lot of problems, and just, like we said, like we've talked about, they haven't played particularly well lately. I don't see them losing this game, and I think it could be. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout, but I think they can win by a touchdown, by 10 points, something like that.
All right. So Josh is taking Chiefs straight up and against the spread. I am taking the Colts with the points, which is right now, like I said, 5.5. Also, over under 57, which is kind of high. The pace of play, which I've been just kind of keeping an eye on. Colts are the fastest team in the league in pace of play. So Colts playing fast, giving the ball back to a team that has super-powered offense, I'm going over. And that's not the only reason, but I mean, they're going to score a lot of points. As good as the Colts defense is, this is a game this looks like a 34-31 kind of game to me. So right now, on NFL Pickwatch, 64% of fans like the Colts getting the points. Sorry, 64% of the experts like the Colts getting the points. 67% of the fans like the Colts getting the points. So the Colts are popular. Cowboys-Rams Saturday night. Let's go through some injuries first. The Cowboys got some trouble in the passing game. We talked about Dak earlier. Cole Beasley. So they lost Allen Hurns. Cole Beasley hurt his ankle during that game last week. He played through it, but he hasn't practiced all week. Blake Jarwin, their tight end, another ankle injury, hasn't practiced all week. I don't know if these guys are going to field or not. Normally during the season, if the guy hasn't practiced all week, you think he's going to be out. It's the playoffs, things might be different, but they're clearly not going to be 100%. David Irving's still out, we know. On the other side of this one, Todd Gurley, full practice Thursday. I mean, McVay said earlier in the week that C.J. Anderson would be part of the game plan, but it sounds like Gurley's ready to go, which is good because when you heard limited in the beginning of the week, you're kind of like, oh, still? Geez, it's been a month. But he practiced in full on Thursday, so it sounds like he's okay. These guys, the Cowboys passing, how much do these injuries concern you? The Rams can be run on. And more than passed on, at least that's what the statistics show. But you got to be able to throw, and the Cowboys are going to be like activating guys off the practice squad to play receiver.
Yeah, I mean it's concerning. We've been talking about Dak Prescott and how maybe I still don't think I'm still not a believer. Although I know you become more of a believer, but you do need receivers to throw to. Obviously they have the Amari Cooper, but then they could triple team Amari Cooper and take him completely out of the game. So. Losing Hearn last week is. Did you go back and watch that injury? And I know they only replayed it once, but did you?
I tried not to.
Yeah, I tried not to. Also, it was pretty disgusting. But Yeah, but anyways, but him being out's gonna hurt. Obviously they're gonna need Cole Beasley. And then you're looking at the rest of the roster, and you're like, oh, Lance Lenoir or Lenoir
Right.
or Noah Brown. I mean, they have Tavon Austin, but you're like, oh, boy, hopefully they can.
Yeah.
How much is it? Well, they can catch the ball in the backfield, that kind of stuff. And they still have some weapons, but yeah, if you're a Cowboys fan, you're really hoping that Cole Beasley can play.
Right. Well, this is tough.
And Blake Jarwin's been good too. I mean,
he's been lately. All of a sudden, he's turned into this, not superstar, but I know Week 17 is a little odd, but 3 touchdowns. What do you mean? But he's been catching the ball a decent amount. So,
yeah, no.
So Cowboys won 8 out of 9. Like they've been different. They've been a different team at home. They're 7-1 at home, right? And only 3 and 5 on the road with 4-4 against the spread. Good run defense, as we talked about, to combat Gurley. But the thing with the Rams is they spread the field so much. That's how Gurley gets the lanes to run. I know the Cowboys' front four is pretty sturdy. Even without Irving, it's pretty good. But that's going to be an interesting matchup there, seeing how much they can stop Gurley. The Rams, on the other hand, 7-1 at home, 3-3-2 against the spread. They can be run on. They give up 5.1 yards a carry. That's a big deal if you're facing Ezekiel Elliott, even if you have Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh. The Rams have scored 30-plus in 12 of their 16 games. So this is another team. Late in the year, you felt like there was a little bit of a slump, but how much of a slump do you think it was? Again, it's one of those things. I talked a lot early in the season about I don't think most teams are going 15-1, so I want to find the losses. The Rams and the Chiefs seem to bunch theirs up a little late. But the Rams had some good losses, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess.
I mean, the Eagles at home, maybe not a good loss. It's a good team, but it's not like they threw up a complete clunker. But they did get the.
Yeah, no, I lost you there for a second. Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, the Rams losing late in the season all right, so they lose on the road to the Bears. They're rolling.
Not a loss.
Not a bad loss, even though they only scored 6 points. I mean, okay, they went to Chicago on a Sunday night, and the Bears defense worked them over. Okay, it happens. Then they lose at home to Nick Foles. They just get crushed. I mean, they came back and made it close, and actually had a shot at the end, but for the most part, they just got beat. And the last 2, they cruise over bad opponents. I mean, you think this team with Gurley healthy, is this kind of like getting back on the right track here this weekend for the Rams, or how much of a game do you think this is?
No, I think this could be a closer game. I wonder if what is it, 7? I know it was 7 when I picked. What is it?
7. It's Cowboys, but getting 7. Over under is 49.5.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't like when I was picking this game. I didn't struggle at all with choosing who to pick. Straight up anyway. I did struggle a little bit trying to figure out if the Cowboys were good enough to kind of cover that spread. And I think they are. Yeah, I think I don't think those two losses don't concern me so very much. But again, it's the same. Now we know that they have vulnerabilities, and again, it's the same thing where the Cowboys come in hot. They come in at their peak at the right time, and you wonder if the Rams are, and you wonder if because the Rams' last 2 opponents were pretty weak, how much that really helped them, I guess. So right. It's that same storyline of you have to. It's kind of a feel thing. You have to feel whether or not you think the team is. I mean, statistically, the Rams should cruise here, but they're not playing at the same level of talent that they could be, I guess. The Cowboys are maximizing theirs and playing well, and we're not sure about the Rams. So and to me, like I said, that's always going to be a big deal. Also, the Rams don't have much of a home field advantage. It's not like it's not like you're going into Dallas and playing the Cowboys, in front of a packed Jerry Jones house, and they're ready to go. It's LA. I don't know how much of an advantage that really is. Right.
I mean, they don't have the rabid fan base because they haven't been there that long.
I went to a buddy's house here. I live in Austin, Texas, so there's a lot of Cowboys fans around. I went to one of my friends' house to watch the second half of the Dallas game last week, and I was surrounded by a bunch of Cowboys fans. I didn't care who won, but they were so very passionate about. I mean, like it's no different, I guess, than most any other passionate fan base. But man, it was like being in the game, man. They were cursing at the referees, and they were. It got pretty crazy there. but it was weird because I kind of was like, oh man, maybe I was beginning to believe in the Cowboys a little bit, and I hadn't felt that all year long. Like this was not a team I believed in, but I don't know, being around those guys and watching them and watching the Cowboys play pretty well, you're like, man, maybe this team can do something. Maybe we underestimated them. I don't know.
Okay. You know, I've kind of liked them, and I've been saying all year I thought they were going to be a tough out in the playoffs. But like I said, at home they've been so different, you know.
Right.
I mean, the road, I mean, they had the last few road games. They had the win against the Giants. They got shut out against the Colts. And I know that happens. They beat the Falcons by a few. Now we're going back to week 10. They beat the Eagles by 7 when the Eagles are struggling. I don't know. Like I said, if Dak steps up and plays well, even with the bad receiving injury issues, like I said, I'm not going to be shocked. But this feels to me like a game where the Rams kind of pull away. 30-17, kind of like that. You know, I feel like the Rams are going to get right. Comparing the Rams to the Chiefs, which I think I'm probably doing because they kind of peaked in that Monday night game and they looked very similar, that they were, you know, all offense. And I just look at them and I go, maybe they slumped a little. You know, Gurley was out. Now he's healthy. They're back to normal. They kind of get back on track and become that team that I probably thought was going to go undefeated when I was watching them in September and October.
You know, there also is a question too about Jared Goff and whether he can be the quarterback to lead a team to a title. You know, he hasn't been great for the last 4 or 5 weeks. He hasn't been. I mean, he was fine. I mean, he was good against the Cardinals, but it's the Cardinals, you know. And I know he threw 4 touchdown passes against the 49ers, but when he's playing a real team, he struggled. He struggled badly against the Bears, threw 4 picks. You know, didn't look so great against the Lions in week 13. Didn't look so great against the Eagles in week 15. So that's when you go in against the Cowboys front seven, who's a solid, or you know, they're better than solid. They're a good front seven. You wondering like how much can he be successful against the Cowboys defense? That's a real question too.
I think it is. I think it's interesting because I think the Cowboys defense is going to have to play awesome for them to win this game. Yeah. And they might. They're good. I'm going to go with the Rams. I'm taking the Rams to win and cover. I know you're taking the Cowboys against the spread. Are you taking them straight up too? Taking them outright? Or are you taking the Rams?
No, I'm taking the. No, like I said, I had no problem picking the Rams straight up. That was not really even a question for me. It was a matter of whether or not I thought the Cowboys could cover the spread, and I think they will. So I like the Rams straight up. Cowboys +7.
All right, and as far as the over/under, it's 49.5. For me, it's on the fence. So you know, I mean, I'm taking under, but I don't love it. NFLPickwatch.com. 62% of the experts like the Cowboys getting the points. 61% of fans like the Cowboys getting the points. It's underdog weekend, Josh.
Well, there's a lot of people so far, and I'm looking straight up, and 79% of the experts are picking Rams straight up. So there's a lot of people kind of riding that line between, well, the Rams are going to win, but they're going to not win very much, which is always kind of an iffy proposition, I guess.
Right. Josh, you there? I got your name on the screen. The video's fading.
My video keeps stopping, man. It's weird. I'm not doing, you know. I look pretty today, so I don't know whether
you're dressed nice. There have been weeks where I know that you've been out of bed for 3 minutes when we started recording.
Oh, today, it's every week.
Like, you're good. You're set. You're ready to go.
The camera does not love me today, although I feel like I feel very pretty, but the camera keeps turning off, so it's not me doing it.
All right, Chargers, Pats. Pats by 4, over-unders 47.5. No snow here, it looks like. It's going to be cold, 25-ish or so, but no snow. Chargers. So the Chargers, I wondered the other day, I wasn't sure if they had gone back to LA or not. And they did. And Anthony Lynn said something. It was odd. You weren't sure. Like, I kind of thought, hey, maybe they'll stay on the East Coast. And Anthony Lynn said something to the effect of, well, there are some things we had to do to work that out to stay, and we didn't, so we went home. I'm like, what? What? It's kind of like you guys won the game and looked at each other and went, what do we do? I don't know if that was the details, but it sounded like it. It just seemed weird. Right. Like, you didn't prepare for this? Anyway, maybe they thought they were going to, well, if they had, no, they knew Sunday that if they won, they were going to Gillette, so I don't know. And maybe Saturday they thought they could be going somewhere else. They could have been going to Kansas City before that. Anyway, injury-wise, Hunter Henry's probably back for the Chargers. That's good. Full practice this week. Melvin Gordon has been limited in practice, but he hurt his ankle in the Ravens game. Should be fine. I think they're just trying to rest him a little bit. Brandon Mead being the Chargers defensive tackle, horrible story. He missed last week's game. His baby daughter was sick, and she passed away on January 3rd. I mean, thoughts to his family. That's awful. He's back, and he'll help their run defense. The run defense played great last week anyway, but Brandon Mead will be back. Pat's clean injury report. Devin McCourty had a concussion. Now it sounds like he's clear. He's not on the injury report, so he's good. So now, Pats have been much better at home. I've been harping all year. The Pats are not what they usually are. They're not dead. They're not declining. The dynasty's not over, but just been a step down. However, at home, they're 8-0. They're 62 against the spread. They've been good against the pass and bad against the run, according to the numbers anyway. 28th in yards per carry against the run. The Chargers have won 12 of their last 14. They had that big. They have been road warriors. They're 8-1, both straight up and against the spread on the road. On the road, they've beaten the Chiefs, they've beaten the Steelers, and they beat the Ravens last week. And they really beat the Ravens, even though the Ravens came back late. The question I have for this game, and I asked Ryan this the other day, the Bill Belichick conventional wisdom is that if you're a good offense, he will try to take out one play. Like basically, this goes back to the Super Bowl 25 when they took out Andre Reed and they let Thurman Thomas run everywhere he wanted. Who do you think he targets, Gordon or Keenan?
That's a good question. I think probably Keenan.
Yeah.
I mean, Gordon has not been healthy, and it seems like, yeah. That's a good question. I think maybe Keenan. Yeah.
I tend to think Keenan too. And cut down the passing game. And yeah, the receivers are not bad. I mean, Mike Williams is emerged as a decent option. And probably be better next year too. But so the Chargers, how much is it asking of the Chargers? Like I said, they won all these big road games. And they had after they played the Ravens, they had to go home, fly cross country to go home, practice a few days, come all the way back. They got another early East Coast game. Does this catch up to them at some point? I'm going to pick them, but I can see I can see that this is just a big ask for the Chargers. I think they're the better team.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are the better team too. And like we talked a little bit last week. I'm sorry, my video just isn't working, so you're gonna have to just imagine, fantasize about me and how it
You
went.
look pretty, so
I know it's so sad. I now lost my train of thought. I think the Chargers are the better team. A little bit of a raw deal that they were in the same division as the Chiefs and they have to go on the road all playoff long. We talked about this last week that they've been really good on the East Coast this year for one of those 1 o'clock games. I mean, now they're 4-0, I believe, in those 1 o'clock games. So it's kind of old hat for them now. And I know Gillette's a pretty tough place to play. I guess you think that it's eventually going to catch up with them, but I don't know. Going back to the 2011 Giants again, I mean, they had to go on the road. I can't remember where you said they played the Packers in the divisional rounds. That's not an easy place to play. So it's not unprecedented that team is going to have to go on the road every week. This obviously is a little different because they have to travel from the West Coast all the way across the country again.
right.
I don't know. I don't know about traveling back to LA. It's hard to tell when that kind of stuff, because there's so much debate about when you should go to like London for all those games, and some teams go early and some teams go late, and some teams have success going early, but some teams don't. So it's kind of a toss-up. I don't know. I know I'm picking the Chiefs to win straight up. That's what I know. I'm sorry, Chargers. The Chargers. I'm picking the Chargers to win straight up because I think they're a better team, and I picked against them last week. Which in retrospect, I guess was a silly pick, but I don't know. You wonder if the Chargers just have that kind of special magic or that special something that this team that most Charger teams have not had.
Look at these guys. I said earlier, the reason I'm taking the Colts is because I think they can win. I think they have a pretty good shot to win the game outright. I think the same about the Chargers. I mean, you look at the Chargers here. You could make a pretty good argument that they're the best team in the NFL, except for maybe the Saints. You can make a good argument they're the best team in the AFC, right, at this point?
Yeah, I mean, their defense is top 10 defense. Their offense is one of the better offenses in the league. I mean, I think they're sixth in yards gained. Phillip Rivers, probably the most underrated quarterback of this generation. I think I talked about that last week. He's a guy who doesn't get the love that Brady and Rodgers and those kind of guys do. But he's always really good, and nobody really talks about him very much in that level. Melvin Gordon, top-notch running back. So yeah, I mean, they're very well rounded. The one thing that does concern me a little bit is if you're kind of matching coaching wits. Bill Belichick's probably the greatest NFL coach of all time, and he's going against a guy, Anthony Lynn, who's I think this is like his 35th game that he's coached.
Right.
So there's some disparity there. That would give me a little bit of pause. But the Chargers are a team that are on the rise, and the Patriots are a team that they're crumbling a little bit. So it's not out of the question. I think the Chargers are the better team. If this was a neutral site game,
yeah,
I wouldn't have any issue picking the Chargers in this one.
Same. I'm going to take the Chargers with the points. I actually right now have the Pats straight up, but I might change it. And like I said, I'm with you. I keep saying I don't hate the Patriots, right? I think they're a good team. I just don't. I think what I said to Ryan the other day is most years if the Pats get a bye, you think, oh, they got a pretty good shot to go to the Super Bowl. Now I go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I pick a few teams ahead of them.
Yeah, so. It's kind of a meh kind of thing with the Patriots this year. And you look at the record, and I mean the record's obviously great. I mean it's good. It's a good team, but it's not the same team that we're used to. Now that Tom Brady, you have to wonder if there's so much talk about Tom Brady and whether or not he's really feeling his age and really showing his age. But I'm interested to see if playoff Tom Brady reemerges and to see what that guy can do. And
right.
If that guy struggles, then you're like, well, maybe Tom Brady just isn't Tom Brady anymore.
I mean, I think he's showing it a little. Which is, he's 41.
Yeah.
It happens. I don't think he's done. I think he's declining somewhat. And he's still a good, solid quarterback, and that's fine. But I think Gronk's the one who looks different.
Yeah.
So.
But I think if you're looking at Phillip Rivers versus Tom Brady, who you're going to pick? And I think you pick Phillip Rivers, like, without question.
Right now, I think I do.
He's 1-7 versus the Patriots in his lifetime. So he's got some motivation, too, Phillip Rivers does.
Yep. By the way, the one thing I want to point out in this game, I pointed out on Tuesday. I talked about the Pats defense, and they're not getting any credit because the stats say they haven't been good this year. Final 6 or so weeks of the season, since the bye, week 11, they've given up 13, 10, 34, 17, 12, and 3. It's a lot of bad teams in there, but the Vikings are in there too.
Who needs Matt Patricia, right?
Maybe they righted the ship a little bit. Yeah, exactly. All right, so you are taking. We're both taking the Chargers. You're taking straight up, and I might take them straight up. So take my pick on the site with a grain of salt right now. Right now on NFLPickwatch.com, 74% of the experts are taking the Chargers and the points. 71% of the fans are taking the Chargers and the points. All right, final game.
But straight up.
Yeah.
67% of the experts are taking the Patriots. So,
okay. So people think the Chargers are going to keep it close.
Yeah.
Got it. Hedging their bets, kind of like what I'm doing.
Yep.
Okay. Eagles Saints. Saints by 8. Over-unders 51. These teams faced off in week 11. Saints won 48-7. Wentz threw 3 picks. Saints lit them up. Traquan Smith had 10 catches for 157 yards and touchdowns. Probably the only really good game he had all year. Injury-wise, should be good. Clean slate for the Saints. Eagles, Alshon Jeffrey was on the injury report this week, but he should be okay. He had a rib injury that he suffered last week. They're hoping to get Sidney Jones back. Their secondary, the Eagles, has just been decimated over the second half of the season. And the scrubs who did look like they should be playing anywhere 5 weeks ago are stabilizing a little. I mean, they're still beatable for sure. But they're not as horrendous as they look. Maybe not as horrendous as they look. Let's watch on Sunday. So the Eagles, since that loss, they've won 6 out of 7. In those 7 games, they've allowed 69 rushing yards to opposing running backs a game. Like their front, Fletcher Cox is a monster, and their run defense is still pretty good. The front seven is still pretty good. Michael Bennett has been practicing during the week and playing on Sundays. He's pretty good too. I mean, they're solid up front. On the other side of the ball, they can't run. 3.9 yards a carry for the year. I mean, last week they ran for nothing against the Bears. They're not going to. Nick Foles this game is on his shoulders. This is not, to me, Nick Foles needs to have Nick Foles will probably have a good game. it's Nick Foles needs to have a good game. It's like they just can't run it all. And I don't think the Eagles are going to shut down the Saints. I mean, I think they're going to, their defense is good, but, I don't think they're going to hold them to 17 or anything like that. I mean, Nick Foles is going to have a big one. And I said last week, he's good. He's playing well. He had a great last drive. They scored 16 points. You know? I mean, Nick Foles, I don't think Nick Foles is lighting the Eagles up, the Saints up for 31. I mean, I didn't think that in the Super Bowl last year either, and I was wrong. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, Foles was playing really good defense in the Bears, and obviously the Saints don't have that kind of defense. So there's a better chance, I think, this week that he'll be a little bit better than he was last week. Although he was not great last week, but he was okay. It's really this shouldn't be a difficult decision to make. It should be the Saints all day, every day. But it's funny how one guy like Nick Foles, a backup quarterback, can kind of make you think about that kind of thing. About maybe the Eagles can. I mean, they do have the Nick Foles pixie dust that has been really, really good for them. At some point, I think a couple weeks ago I kind of compared it to Tim Tebow when he was doing those crazy things that one year and beating the Steelers in the playoffs and stuff. But Tebow eventually lost, and Foles eventually will lose. And I think this week is probably the week to do it. Did you hear that story about Sean Payton walking in the locker room this week? It was kind of all over the place. It was a great story. For those who don't know, it's Sean Payton walked into the Saints locker room with like 4 security guards and a wheelbarrow with the Lombardi trophy in it and like $225,000 worth of cash. And he said, and he kind of addressed the team, y'all want this? And he said, win 3 effing games.
Right.
And apparently the locker room went crazy. And that's a little thing, but I read about this in the Pickwatch. To me, it speaks a little bit to how loose a team is and the mentality and how well Sean Payton knows that team and what he has to do to motivate them and just keep them loose. I mean, just keep it fun. And I think that if you relate to baseball and managers in baseball, some of the best managers I've ever dealt with or seen up close, Bobby Cox and Dusty Baker. Now these guys, Bobby Cox to Braves, Dusty Baker when they were in Cincinnati. And these guys were not great winning World Series that much. I mean, Bobby Cox won one World Series. I guess Dusty never won a World Series, right? So
I don't think so. Right? No, the Giants. Did they win with the Giants?
Did they win that year?
I don't know.
I don't remember. Anyway, he has 1 or less, whatever it is. So they're not great like tacticians, but what made them great managers was the way they kept the team going during the 162-game season. Kept them loose. The team, their team loved them. The way they managed the team in the season, just managing personalities, all that kind of stuff. To me, that's a big thing. Sean Payton is on that same level of keeping a team loose, keeping a team ready to go, and keeping a team motivated. To me, not that that's bigger than anything that we're going to talk about or have talked about as far as stats and injuries and stuff, but to me, that's a thing that can be really important. So when I heard that story, I was like, man, that's really, really great for the Saints.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they've been there before, so that'll help too. I mean, they all haven't. It's been a while for them, but you know what I mean. The coach and quarterback have. So there's some experience in that room. I think I'm with you. You said no, there should be no question. I agree with you. And I know the Eagles have been good lately, and good for them. And they're the defending champs, and that's great. I think the Saints are too good. I mean, I don't think they're 48-7 better like they were 7 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago. But I think they're better. By the way, those stats I mentioned earlier, also the Saints are second in the league against the rush. So, I mean, the Eagles are not going to run. They're not. It's not going to happen. So, and if Darren Sproles breaks a 60-yarder, I'm wrong. But it's not going to happen. So we're both taking the Saints and covering the 8, and that's that.
Yeah.
All right.
I think out of every playoff game we've talked about this week and last week, I think this one's probably the easiest to – I have the least difficulty with this one.
I think it makes sense. I think that, to me, this and the Rams make the most sense. But this one more. By the way, the over-under, 51. So it was 48-7 last time. Pace of play, these teams are in the bottom 6, both of them. So I'm going under. I think I don't know, 30 to 14, something like that.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles fairy dust, Nick Foles pixie dust run comes to an end here. I think we'll go.
I could be like a 34-10 kind of game. Yeah, I think so too.
NFLPickwatch.com. Experts are 54-46 toward the Saints with points, but the fans 70% Eagles. So the fans love the dogs across the board. The fans, there's no underdog lower than 61%. The Cowboys are 61%. The Colts are 67. The Eagles are 70, and the Chargers 71. That's the amount of percentage of people who pick those teams. Fans love them. Everybody does pretty much.
Yep. Eagles 70%. That's a lot.
Yeah. All right. Those are our picks. You got anything else? You good?
The video finally started working.
Yeah, the video. Josh's video's back, so you can see how pretty he looks. All right.
Good.
Everybody, if you have questions for us over the weekend, he's at Josh Katzowitz on Twitter. I'm at Halpin37, and our main account is at Pickwatch. As I said, this show, the individual game discussions will be on YouTube later on Friday, so please check those out. Make your picks, track everybody else's NFL, and sort as any way you want. NFLPickwatch.com. I'm going to be here over the weekend, just like last week. Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, Sunday, noon Eastern on Facebook Live, just going over the inactives for the early games, late news, the consensus picks up to that point, all that stuff. So please come on back then and check us out. That's pretty much it. For Josh Katzowitz, I'm John Halpin. Good luck in the divisional round. Thank you for watching Pickwatch Live.